Hello everyone, I'm Rebecca and welcome back to my channel. I watched this video by Laci Fay, the vintage girl next door, who I love her channel, and I will link her channel down below and up above. And I watched this video on her channel about how to make a brooch board so that you can take your brooch collection and hang it up on the wall and have it so that you can see it all the time and it's not just a jumbled mess in your jewelry box, which is what my brooch collection currently does. As I said, I watched this video a while ago and I didn't really remember everything that you need for this project. All I remembered was that I needed a nice pretty frame. So today I was at the thrift store and I bought a very pretty frame. Ta-da! And then proceeded to come home and decided I really want to work on this project. And then I went back and watched her video again and realized that I don't actually have anything else really that I need for this project, because her instructions call for foam, a couple layers of foam, and spray glue. I mean, I guess that's really it. It's foam and spray glue, and I don't have either of those. I do, however, have quilt batting and hot glue, so I figured I might as well try it anyway, and if it really sucks, I guess I can just take it out of the frame and redo it. So I figured I would take you along with me on this journey to organize my jewelry collection, which I will intersperse a clip of because it really is a mess. And we can go ahead and try this semi-tutorial project thing. This is the current state of my way too messy jewelry box. Let's fix that, shall we? To begin with, I laid out the backing board of my frame on my velvet fabric and cut around the edges, leaving about a 1.5 inch width beyond the edge of the backing board so that I could pull the velvet over and glue it into place. I happened to have just almost exactly enough batting to make 3 layers worth of batting with a little stretching help. First though, since this batting has been wadded up for years, I needed to steam my batting to try to make it smoother. I did this with my lowest steam setting on my iron and stretched and pressed with my hands to try to make sure that it would be nice and smooth and flat. Do be careful, because if you touch your iron to the batting, even on the lowest setting, since this is poly batting, it will melt. So have caution, make sure your iron is not touching the batting as you steam it. I then laid my frame backing board on top of the batting and cut around the edges, removing any excess batting. I realized after I cut this that I left actually still more batting than I needed, so that's why you see me cutting this twice, because I realized that I really didn't need any excess past the edge of the board in order to do this project. Now we can begin the assembly. First, I took the velvet fabric and laid it face down on my table, making sure to smooth out any wrinkles that were appearing in the velvet. Then I took my batting layers and put them on top with the smoother side facing towards the velvet. Then I took my backing board and pressed it down on top of my batting, and I'm ready to glue. I used a standard hot glue gun like one you get from the craft store, and I started by gluing right on the edges of the backing board. Then I pulled up the velvet fabric and smoothed it over the glue, kind of pushing the board into that corner of the velvet, if you will, or that fold of the velvet, to make sure I get it nice and smooth. I then realized I should probably be putting the glue really more towards the edge of where the velvet wraps over, so I did that for the remainder of the project. I started with the long end of the frame, and I then switched to the opposite long end of the frame so that I could keep the fabric nice and taut on the front side. This time I decided to apply the glue directly to the edge of the velvet because I wasn't sure where the velvet would hit on the frame, and I wanted it to still be nice and taut and have the edges glued down. I did not worry about raw edges for this project because this is going to go in the back of a frame and it's not going to get any wear or rubbing against the edge of the fabric. Plus it has glue on the edge of the fabric, so even if it frays a little, it's sure not going to fray much. As I glued each section, I flipped it over to the front to make sure that I still had a nice, smooth, taut layer of velvet. Then I switched to the sides. I am again applying the glue here to the board first, starting with the edge of the board. That way I can get a nice taut fold as I pulled the velvet over the edge of the board. I then went back and did another line of glue on the velvet along the edge so that it wouldn't flap around anywhere in the back of the frame and would be nice and secure. Then it was time to do the opposite short edge of the board. Again here, I started by gluing on the edge of the velvet, since again I didn't know where it would wrap to, and pulled it nice and taut over the board and made sure that that glue and that edge was pretty even. Since I did start with a rectangular shape of velvet, I wanted to make sure it was still rectangular on the back of the board. It looks good on the front. Now it's time to work on our corners. I wanted to make sure that the corners didn't have very much bulk, so I did wind up cutting away some of the fabric inside. Again, I really didn't care about raw edges, so mostly this was just a matter of folding my corners in so that I A, didn't have bulky corners, and B, had everything nice and secure. Here I put some hot glue in the various layers of the corners since it would have fabric folded on top of fabric. So there is some glue underneath the bottom layer of fabric, and there is also some glue within the layers of fabric to adhere them to each other. I worked my way around the board, completing all 4 corners in the same manner. And the cushion portion of our board is complete. Now it's time to incorporate it back into our frame. This frame had little staples that I had to bend out of the way so that I could get the backing board off in the first place. So all I have to do is push the new backing board into place and make sure that those staples are all bent back into place over the backing board. And our brooch board is complete. I have to admit that turned out way easier than I expected. I think my method's actually a lot easier than hers. So yeah, now I have this really beautiful pin board or brooch board that I got for the whopping price of $3.99 plus tax, and everything else was stashed. So that's really cool. And now I get to fill it with brooches. So I guess I might as well take you along with me on that, and let's put some brooches on my brooch board. Please don't judge my incredibly messy sewing table. In hindsight, this board may be too small. Now it's time to lay out the brooches. This is by far the most difficult part of this project. I decided to leave off my few Christmas brooches, and I figured this little empty space would be perfect for the brooch that I wear with my Governor Ratcliffe 1830s outfit. So it turns out the most difficult part of this entire project was actually just putting all of the brooches on the board. When I first put them on, I thought that I could just slip the pin through the board, like through into the board, into the batting, and it would stay there. But that's obviously not true because hinges and gravity. So I actually had to, on almost all of the pins, I had to get the end out the other side and like latch it in its little latch thing. But now they're all staying. I also realized that I missed 5 pins on my first pass through. So that spot that I was going to put that one large pin that I use for Governor Ratcliffe, that's going to stay with Governor Ratcliffe for now because I have now filled in that zone with some other brooches. So I just thought while we're here, I would kind of show you some of my brooches, at least some of my maybe more favorite ones. So I've got these great ones down here. These are all from AliExpress, this one too, and they just make such beautiful bodice jewelry, and they were all like under $10 a piece. I think significantly cheaper than that in some cases. These are my Disney pins. I got these from a seller on Etsy who I'll have to look up and link below because I can't remember their name, but I love the D pins and I wear them at the parks, but also just not at the parks. They're great for Dapper Day and great for just having a little Disney magic. Likewise, my boss actually gave me this great pin. I think it was her mom's. And I love this little vintage Mickey. This one is one of my favorites. This is a vintage brooch that came from my little in my sorority. It was her grandma's. And a couple of these I think were actually her grandma's. And then there's a few of these that were my grandma's, like the cherries and the daisy. Oh, I think maybe the rose. But there's just a whole lot of really pretty pins on here. Some of them I wear a lot. Some of them, honestly, I never wear. But there's a few like this one, the cherries. This one I wear a lot. And I love wearing this one for Victorian costumes because, I mean, how awesome is that with the little watch? To be honest, this used to have something else dangling from it. I think it had like a little locket or something, and I put this little vintage watch on it instead when I did my Fair Lady because it just felt appropriate for Mrs. Pierce to have that. So anyway, these are my brooches. And this is my new brooch board, and now I just have to figure out where on earth I'm going to hang this thing because I have a lot of fashion plates on my walls. So that will be the next step, but I'm super, super happy with how it turned out. And actually it was like the quickest project in the world. I think that took maybe 2 to 3 minutes. So that was awfully nice. I did pre-cut the fabric, so I guess that would have taken an extra minute. But wow, that was great. And I mean, for like $4.39 including tax, you can't be beat. And here's what it looks like in my room hanging over my tiara shelf. So I'm super, super happy with my new project, and thank you to Laci Fay for inspiring me on this journey. If you go ahead and make something like this yourself, please let me know. Because again, super, super easy, super fun project. Tag me on Instagram at Lady Rebecca Fashions and show me your creation. I do hope that you enjoyed this video and that it was helpful to you. If you liked this video, please go ahead and click the thumbs up icon. And if you'd like to see more from me, please go ahead and click subscribe and the little bell icon to be notified every time I post a video. I post here on YouTube twice a week now with my sewing vlogs, but I do post every day over on Instagram, so go ahead, follow me. Again, that's at Lady Rebecca Fashions. I hope you had a lot of fun and that you're having a great week, and I will see you very soon in my next video. Happy sewing!